Hi guys, this is Luke, and most recently I received from you several requests to do more videos on Django with JavaScript. And actually this is cool by me because those videos that I released so far had some pretty good statistics. So I decided to do additional 2, 3, maybe 4 videos on this topic, starting from this one, which will be related to adding a page loader or a spinner to our site. So let's actually see what this project is about. So I'm going to refresh the page, and as you can see, for a half a second there was a spinner, and then we got the data from the database and simply displayed them. So let's do this one more time. I'm going to hit refresh. We see a spinner, then we get the data and display the data, and this is exactly what we are going to do in this particular video. Those data, as mentioned before, are coming from the database. Here are our objects. So post 5, something about post 5, and here we have post 5, something about post 5. All right, so yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so as usual, let's take a look at what have I done so far. So I started a new project called Spinner Proj, and inside the Spinner Proj directory, let's take a look at settings.py file. Over here, I added to the installed apps list our post application. That means I started a new application within this project called posts, and we will be working with this post application in just a second. But then let's scroll down and let's take a look at the templates. So here I told Django where to look for additional templates, and I created a templates folder, and inside I added base HTML file. So here we have blog title, blog content, and this is for template inheritance purposes. I also added custom CSS as well as custom JS. So here we have load static, and we are loading static files, style CSS and main.js. We actually don't have this static folder created, because if we look at settings.py, here we have the static URL and static files dirs. So here we want to keep our static files. So let's actually create the static folder inside the src directory, and I'm going to add style CSS and then main.js. So this time I'm not doing it inside the blog scripts. I'm creating a separate file, and here we will do some JavaScript coding. So for now I'm just going to put in console log hello world. All right, so this is for the settings.py file. If we take a look at the URLs.py, here I just included static files in the URL patterns. And then if we go further, let's take a look at models.py file. So right now we are inside the posts application directory, and we are inside the models.py file. So here I created a very simple class post that inherits from models.model and consists of 2 fields: title, which is a models char field with the max length 200, and the body, which is a models text field. And then I defined a string representation, which is returning the self title. Okay, and then in the admin.py, I also registered this post class so we can actually see it. So if we go to the browser, here we have Bootstrap, and we will be working with Bootstrap in just a second. Here we have our post application. I already created 6 objects. So we have posts 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we will be loading those posts in just a second. If we take a look at post 0, here we have the title and something about post 0. And then we have post 1, something about post 1, and so on. Okay, post 2, something about post 2. All right, guys. So right now, we can actually start coding. I'm going to go to views.py, and here I'm going to make an import from Django views generic I'm going to import template view, and here I'm going to define a class post template view, which inherits from this template view. And then below, I'm just going to define the template name, and this is going to be posts/main HTML. So right now I'm going to save this and go to the post directory. Here I'm going to create a templates folder. Inside the templates folder, I'm going to create another one called posts. And inside the posts, I'm going to create this main HTML. This main HTML file will inherit from base HTML. So we need to open up a block title, and this is just going to be home, and then block content, and this is going to be home page, for example. Okay, so right now what we need to do is to register this view, and we are going to do it directly inside the Spinner project. So again, I'm going to skip the URLs.py file inside the post application. I'm just going to register it directly inside the URLs.py in the Spinner project, in our main project folder. So over here, from Django, sorry, not from Django, but of course posts views, we want to import our post template view. So let's do it. We want to import post template view, and here I'm going to define a new path, post template view as view with the name main view. Okay, so now let's see if this will actually work. So I'm going to copy the piece of URL, and we don't have template, does not exist, posts. Okay, so inside the views.py, I made a typo, posts main HTML. Sorry about this, guys. And there it is. We have our home page. Okay, so inside the views, let's create another view, and this time it will be a function view, and let's maybe call this post JSON, and this will take in a request, and here we are going to define a variable called data, and I'm just going to write down post. So we need to actually import our post from models.py. So from .models, we want to import post. And here we are just going to put in post objects, but not all, but we want to take in the values. And we want to put it into a list. And then what we want to do is to return a JSON response. So we again need to do an import from Django HTTP import JSON response, and here I'm going to use this JSON response, but in data with save is equal to false. All right, so now I'm going to save this, and I'm going to register this post JSON inside the URLs.py file inside the Spinner project. So we want to import post JSON and then create a new path, post JSON, and the name is going to be posts view, for example, posts view, JSON view, or whatever. Okay, so now I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go to post JSON. And there it is. So here are our objects, and we want to grab those objects and display them in a different view. We want to actually display them within the post template view. So in order to do that, we need to do some JavaScript that will be done inside the main.js, but it will refer to this post main HTML. So over here, what I'm going to do is to define two variables. So we will have const for our spinner. So I'm just going to put in spinner box. And we will also have a constant for the data box. Okay. And we need to actually create some divs with the ID of a spinner box, which will be stored inside this constant, and another div for the data box. So let's do this right away, and we will do it inside the main HTML. So here I'm going to actually delete this home page. And right now what I'm going to do is to head over to the spinners. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to put it inside the block content, delete this span, save this, and let's take a look at our page right now. So here we have a spinner. Good. So as the next step, what I'm going to do is to create another div with a class of text center, and I'm going to add a margin top 3. And I'm going to close it off over here. Save this, refresh, and there is the spinner. And this is all right. If we would like to change a color, we could, for example, grab this text primary and put it over here. Let's save this, refresh, and now we have a blue spinner. All right. So right now, apart from this spinner, we also need a data box. And here I put one quotation mark too much. So below the spinner box, we want to have another one called dedicated for the data. So here we will have another div class text center margin top. And yeah, actually, let's bring it like this. And here, what I'm going to do is to set the ID. So here we will have an ID of a spinner box. And here we have a div with an ID of data box. All right. So we are actually ready to do some JavaScript, because right now we can get those elements by ID. So I'm going to save this main HTML, go to our main.js, and here the spinner box will be equal to document get element by ID, and we want to get it by the spinner box. And here document get element by ID data box. Okay, so let's see if this is working. I'm going to console log out the spinner box and console log out the data box. Let's save this, right click, inspect, console, and let's hit refresh, and there it is. We have a spinner box and a data box. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is to create a new class inside our style CSS, and this class will be called, for example, not visible, and I'm just going to put in display none. Okay, so I'm going to grab this not visible class and head over to our main HTML and add it inside the class text center margin top 3, save it, And what do we have right now? Nothing actually changed. So I'm just give me a second to figure out why it didn't work. We have not visible. So here we have not visible, it's saved. Let's take a look at spinner. I'm going to press Command Shift R and there it is. So we had to reset the browser and clear out the cache, and this solved our problem. So with this class not visible, we don't see the spinner anymore. Okay, but the thing is that we want to see it at the very beginning, and then after we load the data, we want it to disappear, and instead we want to see the data. So right now I'm going to head over to the main HTML. I'm going to delete this not visible class, going to save this file and jump back into main.js. I'm going to comment those console logs. And over here, we are going to use AJAX, and we are going to begin with the type. So this time we won't be dealing with a post, but with a get. We want to get the data, and the URL is just going to be our post JSON, like this. And let's define what will happen on success. So for now, let's put in a function which takes in a response, and let's just console log this response. And then in case of an error, let's define what will happen. So we will have a function which will take in an error. And also let's console log the error. Okay, so let's see how this actually works. I'm going to save this, hit refresh, and over here we have page not found 404, post JSON. Let's go to the URLs PY, post JSON. Okay, so I made a mistake. In the main.js, it should be post JSON like this. Okay, so let's save this. Let's hit refresh, and there it is. So here are our objects as a response. So if I put in over here response as a string, here are our objects as a response. So we can do something with this response. But also what we can do on success is to get rid of the spinner. So in order to do that, I'm going to write down spinner box and then access the class list and add this, how was it called? Not visible, I think, not visible. So let's see now what happens. I'm going to refresh, and as you can see, the spinner is gone. It's just for a very short period of time, and it's gone until the data is loaded. So maybe let's do a set timeout so we can see the spinner for a little bit longer. And let's put in half a second, okay? And inside we are going to put in the spinner box, not visible, and console log the response. So after half a second, we should add to the class list of the spinner box the class not visible, and we should console log the response. So I'm going to save this, refresh, and there it is. Okay, there it is. Perfect. So after half a second we get the response. So what we can do is to create a for loop for const item in of, sorry, not in, but of response. And over here, we can access this data box. So I'm going to put in data box inner HTML. And here what we are going to do is add, with the use of backticks, for example, bold, inject the item title, and let's close up the bold. And then in a paragraph, let's put in the item body. Okay, so right now let's see what happens. Let's hit refresh, and there are our posts. As you can see, we loaded our posts from the database. And over here, let's also do maybe a set timeout. Let's also put in half a second. And if something goes wrong, let's also refer to the data box inner HTML. And here we are just going to put in also maybe in bolded font, failed to load the data. And let's close up the bolded. Okay, so right now I'm just going to put in here some excess, save it. So right now we should have failed to load the data. Let's hit refresh, and there it is. So we have failed to load the data, but we still get the spinner. So we actually need to put in spinner box class list add not visible. And there it is. Failed to load the data. Perfect. So I think we can finish off over here. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please let me know if you would like to see more of JavaScript with Django. Hope you guys have a wonderful day and hope to see you soon. Take care and bye-bye.